Hello, friends. I feel like it's been so long since I had a proper sit down, catch up, chat with you all. And we have a lot to catch up on, as I'm sure you noticed, with the title and the thumbnail for this video. Now, before we jump into the major plot point of the video that I'm sure you're really interested in, I just want to give a bit of a recap and some context. Because I have now lived in London for a year. I have been working on my dissertation for the past year, and some things in my life have changed. Before I left New Haven, I was running 3 businesses. And since moving to London, I have closed down Accepted Consulting. I have some major changes coming to Accepted Society. My main focus was working on and developing the dissertation. And I just want to go ahead and do a little bit of a recap over the past year and what I think are some really critical changes in my life and my mindset. And so it wouldn't be a Kaelyn Apple video if there wasn't some kind of dramatic montage. So I'm going to go ahead and flip over to the voiceover and give you a little bit of a recap and set some context for the news that I'm going to share next. The saying goes that moving away does not solve your problems. Moving away from the US and out of my apartment in New Haven opened a world of opportunities, but it also opened every possible wound and dark thought. And despite moving to my favorite city in the world, making progress on my dissertation, and finding routine, something still didn't feel quite right. And I realized that moving away does not solve your problems. In fact, it required that I face them and myself head on to recognize and act upon the things in my life which were no longer fitting. And so I made some tough decisions. I closed down a successful business. I adapted to the ending of friendships. I battled loneliness and found my footing in a relationship living together with a partner after years of long distance. I also faced the insecurities I had put to the side about my academic work, my creative pursuits, and concerns over my financial well-being. I faced visa insecurity and felt the chasm of loss for close friendships, which were now separated by an 8-hour time difference. It was in this act of restoration, healing, and painful recognition, however, that I began to see myself clearly for the first time in years. I leaned into my creative interests, sought out new friendships, and stopped shaming myself for being a multi-passionate individual who, despite not making as much progress as my peers, was going to be okay regardless. I learned to settle into the discomfort of imposter syndrome while writing my dissertation, and in doing so, landed a fellowship to complete my dissertation at the University of Cambridge and passed my first chapter conference. But this is where yet another growing pain has set to emerge, and that is what this video is all about. So now we're up to the point in which I had submitted my dissertation chapter and I had been accepted for the Fox Fellowship. I was relieved beyond belief because over the past 6 or so months, I've been feeling really insecure about my finances. I've been feeling really insecure about what my future is going to look like. And that included what the future of the PhD was going to look like, but it was also about what my future in general looked like. And the Fox Fellowship seemed like the solution. This is where things got complicated, is that I thought that I could continue on with my current visa situation. Now, over the past month or so, I have received communications from Cambridge, from the Fox Fellowship Committee, basically saying that the only option that I had was to switch to a student visa. Now, here's the challenge with the student visa. In the UK, you can work up to 20 hours in addition to your studies on a student visa. However, because I was going on this fellowship, I would have to follow the guidelines of the fellowship. In the email that we received when we were accepted for the fellowship, it said that you could email the director to try to figure out some exceptions. Now, as you know, I have businesses, I create YouTube content, and I procure an additional income to help support myself. I don't have a financial safety net. I can't rely on my family. And when I started my PhD, I had no savings, no safety net, and had basically found a way to make additional income through selling digital products, through starting businesses, through creating YouTube content. And that has meant that I have had so many more opportunities and that I actually have some sense of financial security for the first time in my adult life. It has meant that I have savings. It has meant that I have begun to pay down my student loan debt. I say all of this in order to provide context as to why giving up that financial flexibility and that financial safety net was something that I felt very insecure about. I went back and forth with the director and with various people at Yale, basically seeing if there was any way that I could be given an exception in order to continue having some part-time work. The answer essentially was no. As an international student and as a student on this fellowship, I would need to follow the guidelines based on my visa restrictions, but also based on the restrictions of the fellowship. And that just wasn't something I was willing to do. Essentially, it would require me to give up 3 things. First, I would have to give up my visa status, which I've already invested a significant amount of money into. Secondly, I would have to give up making an income on YouTube or making any additional income over the next 10 months. And third, it would cause me to have to redirect my plan for my ongoing future individually, financially, as well as for my relationship and the plans that we have together as a couple. And so I basically had 3 options. The first was to give up all of my other streams of income and potential for other streams of income for 10 months and to take the fellowship. 2, to return to New Haven as a teaching fellow in order to receive my stipend, but to still have the flexibility to do additional work. Or 3, to fund myself and to not rely on Yale financing. And so the dilemma basically came down to the question of, can I and am I willing to jeopardize my future plans that I am en route to achieve in order to take the fellowship? And so I decided to begin exploring the third option and figuring out what it would look like if I were to support myself and work in order to make an income that would support myself while finishing the PhD. This was not an easy decision. However, it was made significantly easier when I was granted a quite incredible opportunity, which is that I was offered my dream job. Those of you that have been following me for the last several years likely are aware that I do not plan on pursuing a professional academic career. I had spoken openly about it with my advisor. I've spoken about it on social media. I do not plan on applying for tenure track or teaching related positions after my PhD. I had always planned on going into education technology or digital humanities. And so that looked like working within the administrative communications or digital humanities departments within a university. The second option was to go down the route of education technology, consulting, and really lean on my entrepreneurial experience as well as my marketing and academic experience in order to develop an enriching career where I could combine my love of academic research along with my interest in technologies, communications, etc. And essentially, the perfect job presented itself at the exact moment that I was questioning what it was that I was going to do. And that is a job working for none other than Ali Abdaal. For those of you that watch my content, you have likely come across his videos before, but Ali is a productivity content creator here in London, but he also has a commercial enterprise known as the Part-Time YouTuber Academy, and more recently, Productivity Lab. Back in March, there was a job listing for a community manager of the new digital community, Productivity Lab. As an author and a productivity creator, Ali was looking with his team to develop a product that was a digital community and a program to help people double their productivity. And when I saw that job listing, it just looked like the perfect opportunity. And I remember saying to my partner and my friends, if I was done with a PhD, this would be my dream job. It would be perfect. Their team is primarily based in London, but it was a remote position and was flexible. And so I had a variety of conversations and thought long and hard about it and decided that if my PhD was done, this would be the job I would apply for and that I would be qualified for. So why am I waiting if all of the circumstances of my PhD don't actually line up with the life I'm trying to live now and the life I'm trying to build for myself in the future? And so I took a chance. I applied for the job and I landed my dream job. So I am now working remotely in a flexible position for Productivity Lab with Ali Abdal's team. And in the short time that I've been there, I will say that it is the perfect match for me. It allows me to combine my interest in digital communities and communication, along with my research skills and my content creation skills. And it's also in a topic that I genuinely care a lot about, which is thinking about productivity in a variety of ways. Thinking about how it is that we can create systems for productivity that work for those that are neurodiverse, to work for those that are working full-time, working for those that want to become creators or that are working professionals looking to build a side hustle. And so the secret is basically that I am going to be doing my PhD while working. And this isn't that different from what I've already done because, as you know, I have built multiple businesses. I've been doing YouTube the entire time I've been in graduate school. And this just means that I'm going to have to restructure my life and my timeline a little bit. But ultimately, this is the decision that best suited my long-term goals as well as the short-term reality of the way I work best. It is a decision I did not come to lightly. I was thoughtful about the job that I was applying for and my way of communicating with the team. They know that I'm a PhD student. They know I'm finishing my dissertation, and they have been so incredibly supportive. And I also think that this job actually lines up beautifully with the goals that I have for myself, being that we are developing a system of productivity that I have been employing in my life for the past several years. And the community is full of professionals and creatives and students and parents. And it essentially feels like accepted society, but broader and focused on a slightly different demographic. And so accepted society is still going on strong. I'm still going to be involved. However, I am actually going to be handing a significant amount of the management of that business to Kate. You probably noticed that in one of my most recent vlogs, and I'll have more updates on this in the coming months as we figure out the restructure. But my focus for now is going to be completing my dissertation while also trying to help develop and build Productivity Lab. I know that some people aren't going to get it. I know that some people are going to ask why I would trade, focusing full-time on the PhD for basically having 4 jobs, which is the dissertation, having a job at Productivity Lab, creating YouTube content and being a content creator, as well as having accepted society. But I have had multiple jobs since I was 12 years old. And while there are times when I wish that I was somebody who could just focus in on one thing, I think that one of my strengths is that I have all of these interests and I find creative ways in order to pursue all of them. And there are times when things take the priority, especially, for example, when I have a chapter submission deadline. But I have figured out a system now in order to do all of the things that I want to do. And I just want to quickly say that that's not my expectation for you, and that me doing this does not mean that you should try to do the same. I'm doing this because it's what matches up with my current capability as well as my ongoing goals and what I want for my future. And so it's a bit of a new chapter. It's going to be quite a change over the next year. And my content will still feature the dissertation diaries, but I'm also hoping to incorporate more productivity related content, as well as more working while finishing a PhD related content. So if you have any questions about time management or the systems that I'm going to be using in order to make this work, I would be happy to share that with you. But we're heading on to a new chapter of life. And so while the dissertation and the research still really matters to me, I still want to finish my PhD. I also have other priorities and other things that I want to be able to achieve. And now I get to make progress on all of those goals. I know some people are going to ask why I am completing the PhD at all, if I already have the job that I would want post-grad. And I've thought long and hard about it on whether or not I'm continuing to pursue the PhD because it's the sunken costs that, I've spent the past 4 years working towards the dissertation and the PhD, or even longer than that if you think about the years that I spent in undergrad working towards developing research, or the time at Oxford. But finishing the dissertation is something that's really important to me, not just as a milestone and not just as a general achievement. I really genuinely want the research to be out there. I don't really care about publishing the book as much as I care about getting the dissertation and the research out into the world on ProQuest so that future historians can hopefully leverage that in their own research, and we can begin asking new sets of questions about gender and race and child labor in the history of Atlantic slavery. And so in many ways, this actually aligns with what I was wanting in the long term anyhow, because I don't plan on pursuing an academic career, and focusing solely on a dissertation felt out of alignment with the overall vision that I have for my career. I also believe that that's evident in the way that I have navigated this PhD thus far. I have really invested in networking, in my relationships, in the systems that I have in place, in learning marketing skills and sales, and skills that I just think are going to serve me in the long term. And evidently, that bargain really worked out. Because if you were to ask me what my dream position would be, it looks like what I get to do with Productivity Lab, where I genuinely feel like I get to take all these different skills and facets of my personality and the things that I'm interested in, and I get to develop that alongside a really incredible team. And so if you have questions, I'd be happy to answer them. I know that some people aren't going to understand, and that's okay, but I'm genuinely really happy with this decision. I was struggling so much with the dissertation process and just feeling like it didn't quite feel right. It didn't feel like the way that I was navigating the dissertation and the way that I was navigating my time was actually indicative of what my priorities are. And now I just genuinely feel like everything is falling into place. And this past year has just been this crash course in realizing that the second you start actually living in alignment with your goals and your values and feeling like you're actually honoring yourself, it becomes so much harder to deny yourself of the things that actually suit you. And what I mean by that is when I, for example, decided to move to London, when I decided to close down accepted consulting, all of those things were just pieces in me, pardon the analogy, but kind of tearing down the facade that I felt like I had been existing in. Some people even pointed it out when I left New Haven. I hadn't realized just how depressed and how unhappy I was until I came here and I actually got to build a community and build a relationship and build a home and build a life and a future that actually feels like it fits. And so while it is disappointing that I can't pursue the fellowship at Cambridge, I'm really glad that I actually get to share this with you and that I get to navigate this uncertain and challenging time in my life. And I get to navigate that with you and I get to share it. And for a while, I had thought about whether or not I actually share that I have gotten this job, and had thought about just trying to keep making the dissertation diaries videos, but that just felt so inauthentic, and it just felt like I was not getting to share something that actually really excites me and really matters to me right now. there are other things I want to be able to share and that I want to be able to do. And so now I feel like I've kind of opened up another door, and I'm hoping that that leads to a really fun and exciting journey. And I am also sharing this, and this video is incredibly long and I'm rambling because I just want this to be an example for someone, even if it's just one person, that if you truly embrace the things that matter to you, you get to see all of the opportunities that the world has to offer. If I hadn't closed down accepted consulting, I never would have considered a position for another company. I never would have positioned doing other types of part-time work because I was so focused on leading a business. And so when I shut that down and decided that it wasn't right for me anymore, all these other opportunities started to show themselves. And you can call that fate or manifestation or whatever you want. But genuinely, I just think it was making space for the things that do feel like there are in alignment. And it opened up new doors for opportunities that I hadn't even realized I wanted or that would be beneficial. I'm going to go ahead and conclude the video there, but I would love to connect with you in the comments. Please let me know if you have any recommendations for videos that you would like to see, if you have any questions, and I hope that you can support this next chapter. I understand if you don't quite understand it, but I'm really proud of myself for making this decision and knowing that it's the right decision for me. And I just hope that in showing this, in being vulnerable, in creating space for the things that feel right, that you also can do the same, and that you also have the courage to do what's right for you. And so that is the end of today's video. If you want to follow the journey, please remember to subscribe to my YouTube channel, and I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I will see you in the next vlog. Bye, friends.